Works. All right. Da, 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 da. Do I have chat? I have chat. I will pop out chat. All right, everybody, how's it going? So today I am in the video with Dr. Evil Genius. I've had him on some previous streams. I will link him down below once I have links all done, once the stream is done, because I didn't think to put the link here.
And I'm the only one that can't see Lewis.
Yeah, so because of my home setup is such a piece of shit, I have to choose whether my capture card goes to OBS or goes to any other piece of software. So actually everybody can see me but you. So I did a board repair video recently, and I had a fairly trolling title about the events of yesterday, and now I'd like to have a bit more of a serious discussion about it. I honestly, I couldn't help myself. I shit on Cuomo and de Blasio virtually every single day. So
I'm not sure I'm going to be that much more serious because I just got off of, for people that know, I do a show, Black Power Magic Hour. We had Lewis in the chat just now, and we're roasting motherfuckers. Like anybody could get roasted doing some dumb shit. It doesn't matter your affiliation.
There's so much, it's pretty fair and even there, or as Fox would say, fair and balanced. There's.
You heard me say that earlier.
I couldn't help myself. So let's go over what happened yesterday. Now, when I typically have to have conversations with Dr. Evil Genius, often he'll be giving me some of the more liberal side, and I'll be giving some of the more conservative side, even if he is not as liberal as he is pushing, or I am as conservative as I'm pushing. So I'm going to try to just say what happened yesterday from the standpoint of the people that were actually doing the stampede on the Capitol. I'm gonna try to get in their head, and if there's anybody in the chat that leans more right-leaning than I am, please do let me know if this is a somewhat accurate assessment.
Oh, by the way, I need my wrench. I need my wrench back. Oh, I got my wrench back.
Yeah,
okay,
you got your wrench. You got your wrench.
I got my wrench back.
So I'm gonna make sure that I get inside the mind. I'm gonna try to get inside the mind of what's going on here. So
yeah,
it's gonna start with the 2015-2016 election. So Trump, as a candidate, says, "I want to help bring your jobs back. I want to stop, getting owned by China. I want to stop getting owned by illegal immigration." And everyone says that he is a fascist, a racist, a dictator, blah, blah, blah. Then he finally gets elected, and they say that this was all some sort of Russian collusion and conspiracy, in spite of the fact that the prior candidate was caught on a hot mic saying, "Don't worry, Putin, I can be a little bit more lax once the election's over." Then he winds up, then 2020 comes around, and after 3 years of calling him a fascist, trying to get him out of office in every single way possible, after all of this occurs, COVID comes up, he blocks people from China coming in. People like Nancy Pelosi and de Blasio say that he is racist. They say that you should run to Chinatown, you should go to restaurants, do anything you want. Then
raise your audio. Raise your audio, Lewis.
One sec, let me fix. Make sure this is going to...
You're saying you got a fucking mouthful there, and you're like, well, evil is loud, you're not, so...
Huh. Okay. Maybe that'll... Any better?
I can hear you perfectly. Hello? But, it's up to the chat.
Test. All right. We'll see.
Are we also up on Twitch as well?
I don't have Twitch. I just had YouTube. I'm gonna post this to my main channel once this is done, though. So I'm gonna post it to the main one.
Oh no, I just wanted to know if there were two chats that I have to keep track of, because I have to do that on my show.
Yeah. Let me just see before This is why editing is good, so I'll be able to see what I fucked up. Okay. All right. So I will edit this a little bit. Hello.
Well, I guess if Lewis's voice goes up, then let me. The thing is, my settings are actually pretty low on my mic.
Well, Google automatically limits it. All right, so I'm just going to have mine go up a little bit right now. Well, once I actually do the video, there's separate audio tracks, so I'll be able to fix all this shit and make it all perfect.
Yeah, I put my mic a little bit further from my face, and hopefully that helps.
I made myself louder and you a little lower. So anyway, back to this. I'll just make an edit point for myself when I post this to the main channel. Tap the mic.
Right.
All right. So after all this happens, then politicians like Nancy Pelosi and de Blasio say, with COVID, you should go out to restaurants, so don't listen to Trump, blah, blah, blah. And then once they see a chance to politically hurt him, then they taking COVID seriously and change the entire way that we vote with mail-in ballots for everyone. And then when the mail-in ballots finally come in, those mail-in ballots that come in are mostly Democrat. And after several months of saying that you should not go outside, you should not be around people, they almost completely ignore this when there are people in the streets protesting, 10,000 right next to each other, right in front of the Brooklyn Museum. And after this happens, we're supposed to trust that the person who has a fair good amount of racist shit that he said in 1993 about the crime bill got 7 million more votes as the not racist candidate. I don't trust you. Fuck you. I'm running into the Capitol and storming it. That's not my view, but that is what I'm taking as I'm trying to steel man the view of the people that are actually trying to storm the Capitol. Does this make sense to anybody here or no?
I think it's got to be a little bit more complicated than that, because for some people it appears, I'm not saying that is actually the case, but it appears that, and this is something that I learned from you the concept of ideologies having people versus people having ideologies. And I look at it as people are they're grasping at anything. Like if you fell out of an airplane, would you say that even though there's really nothing to grab, you're still going to try to grab something because that's that desire for self-preservation, anything that you think is going to keep you alive. So, one of the craziest things about what we've seen from, it's not just yesterday, but what we've seen from all the rhetoric is that the only proof that they had that there was election interference or cheating in the election is Trump's claims. Trump went to court and his lawyers couldn't even make his arguments because then they'd lose their license to practice law, because they knew that they could not knowingly make false statements to judges. They could not knowingly make false arguments to judges. Otherwise, they would lose their license or even end up in jail for contempt of court or for perjury. They knew this. So a lot of the things they were saying in public, they were not saying in the courts because they couldn't without taking on some kind of risk themselves.
Yeah, the difference between what was being said behind closed in the actual courts and then what Trump would say publicly was fairly vast.
Yeah,
it made it very difficult.
It was very different. Yeah,
any of it.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, I think that in some states, and the thing is, like, they're accusing these states of, colluding with the Democrats, and these are Republicans. These are Republican led electioneers. These are Republican led secretaries of state. State secretaries of state. These are Republican governments. And, people are just, again, like none of the proof actually points to the assertion, but I guess, I'll tell you like this. I'll try to make it make sense like this. After Obama was elected president in 2008, I noticed that I saw a lot of people getting out of pocket. Every single time somebody disagreed with them, they would call them a hater of women. They would call them sexist. They would call them racist. Any disagreement, you're a racist because we've got a black president. And if you're not down with the black president, then you're this and you're that. And, there was no cohesiveness to the arguments. There was no context. There was nothing, right? So I warned these people that we were going to end up, with the shoe on the other foot, because people are just tired of being called racist and sexist and bigot simply for just disagreeing with you. Your arguments don't hold any water. And what's happened is I think that you've seen a lot of people who are just so sick and tired of what they went through under 8 years of Obama. And it wasn't like Obama's fault, but a lot of Obama's followers put a lot of that rhetoric out there. And it was frankly pretty disgusting to me. Now we've got people that I think are just quite frankly afraid that they're going to return to the days of not having a voice at all in public discourse. And I think that, unfortunately, if you look at the way that Trump handled the situation yesterday, I think that you're going to see a lot of people in middle America who are going to lose their voices in the public square. And we're going to come right back here in 2024. We'll be right back here in 2028 because, if Kamala Harris, is the president and, you have 4 more years, you're going to have a lot of these ultra neoliberal people going right back to the Obama days. And it's just going to be an ugly cycle of hyper partisanship. That's the way I see it.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of resentment that it gets you to this point rather than people looking at just turning on One America News and saying, I'm going to storm the Capitol. Yeah.
I mean, you have a commenter here. Michael Howling says none of the judges even looked at any of the evidence. They threw it out before anything was actually presented. The thing is, before you get a chance to present any evidence, you have to actually have sound legal argument when you first open your mouth.
Standing is what you have to have standing, but when you're presenting a case.
And some of the cases weren't thrown out because the judges didn't believe or didn't listen. Some of them were for procedural, like, we don't handle that here. It is not our place to handle this here. And I think that they misled a lot of Americans with the rhetoric that they would put out there after their cases were dismissed. A lot of times it wasn't so much that they didn't have evidence of election fraud because they did not have evidence of election fraud. The problem is that they didn't have evidence that there was legal standing to even present an argument at all. So none of the positions that they had made any sense in the court of law. The federal government does not hold any sway over the elections of the state. They just don't have any sway. And it's also, to me, it's a poor argument, legal or otherwise, to say that you have a bunch of Republicans trying to steal the election from the Republicans. That doesn't even make sense. Again, we're talking about traditional Republican strongholds who have Republican governors, Republican secretaries of state, Republican election officials. These are all run by your people. So I just don't understand. I don't understand. Like, bring me something that's plausible. And then we can have the discussion, and I'm more than willing to have the discussion with you because I don't like politics on either side. I don't like any of them. So I'm not riding for any of them.
What was the name of the guy in Georgia that was in charge of the elections who was posting to his own Twitter?
Raffensperger?
No, that was the Secretary of State. There was another guy, the one that said enough is enough, so many people are getting death threats. The guy that actually posted to his own Twitter that I want Purdue to win. I was, he wanted Trump to win. He wanted Purdue to win.
No, I think that was Lindsey Graham of South Carolina. I think he said that. This
was a guy in Georgia. He was short, a little puffy. He was the one that came out a week and a half ago and said this has to stop. There's so many people are getting death threats. Mr. Trump, please lay off the rhetoric or whatever. I forget his name, but he was not the Secretary of State. He's one of the people that's in charge of elections in Georgia, and he's a Republican.
Yeah, Mo Zamboni says Georgia had straight up had blatant fraud. Then tell me what the fucking fraud was. Like, you just can't say they had blatant fraud. Well, what was the fraud? It was just fraudulent. Like, you have, again, and we talked about this. You and I have had private conversations on the phone. We've had discussions with your audience, and we knew that the mail-in ballots were going to be counted last.
Gabriel Sterling, that was him. Gabriel Sterling, that's the guy.
Okay, I didn't know the guy's name.
He is. But he's not a hidden Republican. It's like posted on his Twitter. I hope this candidate wins, and it's the candidate that lost.
Right, and he's like, yo, this is just what, he's just saying that's what it was, right? So the thing is that, again, if you wanted to tell me that there was blatant fraud, then you have to show me where the fraud is. It doesn't make any sense for the Republicans to help the Democrats work against their own party. It does not make sense. And we talked about, and we knew that the people who are more likely to vote Democrat were going to be more likely to send in mail-in ballots. We know that the mail-in ballots were going to be counted after the in-person ballots. So what we saw was a whole bunch of Trump votes be counted, And then what we saw was a whole bunch of Biden votes be counted. And one more thing, you're having Congress, congressmen and women elect. We're talking about Senate elect. We're talking about representative elects on the Republican ticket, because remember, the Republicans won a lot of seats in the same election as the general election. All of those people talking about voter fraud they won their races on the same ballot that Trump lost, and they're talking about fraud. And these are elections that they themselves won. They were on the same ticket. If the whole thing is fraudulent, then that means that your win had to be fraudulent. It only makes sense.
Yeah, there was this one, I forget the exact article. There's one particular article. One of the people says, we should decertify this. And then they say, well, should we decertify the fact that you just won on this ticket? Because the Republicans actually picked up seats in the House in this election. And one of the things that I got out of it from looking at the results, when you see that Republicans were winning House seats, they weren't losing House seats here, and yet Trump lost by this margin, was that America is not moving away from the constrained vision versus the unconstrained vision. They're moving towards the more constrained vision, or the more right-wing vision, but they're just saying at the same time, I'm sick and tired of fucking Trump. And I think you can be sick and tired of Trump and some of the shit that he does, or the shit that he says, or the shit that he starts, while simultaneously believing more in limited government, or just not buying into complete liberal orthodoxy.
Right. Yeah. One of the things that I thought, I know a lot of people don't care about this, but
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but why would you have to have a runoff election, Enjoy? Why would you have to have another election? Why wouldn't you just cheat the first time? Why would you have to have a runoff against Perdue because it was so close? Perdue won. He got more votes in the first election against Ossoff. Why would that happen? That's the shittiest cheating I've ever seen.
Yeah, again, these are the same votes on the same they're on the same ticket. Like, it's not like they had to do it's not like they had to put in a separate ballot for the House race or for the Senate races. We're talking about the same ballots. Why would somebody want to cheat, but not cheat all the way?
Or not even not cheat all the way, but cheat enough that, you win the presidency by this much, but you don't lose the Senate or lose the House. Why would you lose this? Why would you lose that many House seats? Why would you actually lose in the first election against Ossoff? If you're cheating, why not win the first time around? Again, if you're cheating, you don't have to win it by 10 million votes. Don't make it look. But why would you do it that way? This is just the weirdest possible way to cheat. And I think when it came to the mail-in ballots, Trump was saying vote in person. Also on the right wing for this particular year, if you were someone who is, if you're right wing, you're more likely to say, I'm not afraid to go out and go to the grocery store and whatnot. Whereas it would be the leftist liberal cucks that are the ones that are so afraid of the sniffles that they can't go to their voting machine. It was part of the culture and the identity. I am going to vote in person because I'm not a bitch. Whereas the people who were on the left were saying, well, I can get the exact same thing done without having to be in a line of people for 8 hours, and I could get the exact same thing done with no risk of COVID. I'm going to go do that. So, of course, the ballots were going to skew heavily Democrat when it comes to the mail-in ballots. That makes sense given everything we've heard this year, especially Trump pushing people to vote in person as opposed to mail-in. If you tell people that the mail-ins are fraudulent, your side is not going to use the mail-ins as much as the people who are on the other side.
Right. One of the things that I appreciated from Donald Trump's administration, because, as, somebody who's been through, something that's on a lower level of what some people have gone through, particularly on college campuses, the rewriting of Title IX, I thought was super necessary. And I know that a lot of people, especially feminists, had a huge problem with them rewriting the Title IX as far as it goes when you're talking about adjudicating accusations of sexual assault and or rape on college campuses. I lauded that because I felt like there wasn't enough due process. It was more like, in the preponderance of the evidence, if I think you're a rapist, then you're getting kicked out of school and you're going to have these other consequences, and you're not going to be able to confront your accuser. They had the third party accuser, the third party accusing. They had all this crazy shit going on from the Obama administration that I thought was just fucking horrible. And the Trump administration reversed that. And I gave them the credit for that. And I thought that was a really good thing that they did. I'm pretty sure there were some other policies that I agreed with. So I don't really care too much about, Trump versus this guy or that guy. I'm looking at the fucking policies and whether or not I believe in them. And for me, I just felt like the things that I didn't like were not really material enough for the most part to remove Trump from office. I felt like a lot of the things that he said that I felt were at the very least racially insensitive. I didn't feel like it rose to the level that he should be removed from office for those reasons. Some of the things that were alleged that he did that were blatantly illegal, and he, did it in the public eye. It wasn't like people said that he said these illegal things. He got up on the podium and then did illegal shit. And we all saw it. Whether or not you agree with the evil shit that he did, not whether or not you agree with the illegal shit that he did doesn't matter. It was blatantly illegal. Like, I'm just calling it as it is. So I don't have any blatant hatred for him. I do dislike him as a human being, no doubt, but I'm not going to attribute some trait to him that does not belong to him unless he's actually earned it.
Yeah, I pretty much agree.
Yeah, so I think some people have. Hey, Kopaz, how you doing, buddy? I do believe in some ways Trump has been treated unfairly. A lot of people making fun of him and trying to make mountains out of molehills. There are those situations.
I think in many ways he asked for it. I mean, in his book in the 1980s, he was saying that this is a specific part of how he stays in the media all the time. And staying in the media all the time is how he would advertise his casinos, his properties, and maintain the image that he had, which it was the image that allowed him to get the deals that he did with the city or with the banks. It's, saying something that has a little bit of truth, but a little bit of crazy shit in it, just enough crazy shit, just enough truth that you want to listen to it, but just enough crazy shit that it stays in the media for a long period of time. It's the way that he was able to dominate the media throughout the 2015-2016 election cycle. And there is going to be a downside to that, which is that if you say enough crazy shit, that people are going to be on top of you all the time. But the thing is, what the media did is by covering him in the worst possible way all the time, when he actually does do something that's kind of crazy, everybody's just sick and tired of hearing it. Like, admittedly, it's a mistake I make on my channel.
It's the boy who cried wolf.
Yeah, like, I discuss Apple and what they do wrong because I exclusively work on their products. Why don't I discuss what LG did wrong? I don't fucking work on LG. Why don't I discuss what Dell did wrong?
But when Apple does something right, you do give them the credit.
It's just rare.
I mean, it's the same. It's the same thing.
Yeah, but like, people in our hardware are Apple. It doesn't matter what I say about Apple at this point. I could say that Tim Cook cut a kid's head off and have evidence of it. They don't care. They just don't want to hear it because they're sick of hearing me say the same fucking thing over and over again. And there are many people on the Trumps. This is just a part of human nature that goes even outside of politics. People get sick and tired of hearing you say the same shit over and over and over and over again from the same source. You can't have the same piece of information over and over again. So you hear so much negative shit that even I eventually just got to tune it out. And then when he actually did pardon someone from, that NCIS had found guilty of crimes I forget the guy's name. The guy that he showed up on Fox like once. He had the guy that was slit some guy's neck in the Middle East.
You're talking about one of the guys that was accused of murdering civilians in Afghanistan?
That was recently. No, this is about a year ago. And I was just looking at it like, why are you getting your dick involved in this? Well, I mean, NCIS exists for a reason. Why are you...
yeah, you're talking about the two. There was two of them. There were two, and he stepped in, and the senior military officers were very upset because it undermines the system that they have in the military courts, and it sends a bad message to not only our allies around the world, but it also sends a bad message to our would-be enemies around the world that we would let blatant war criminals get away with that kind of shit. And I've said it before.
Why would you get involved with that? And the thing is, there are some
there's
people
no
didn't
reason
get
to.
very.
Actually, there was a reason to. There was a reason. The reason to do that is that he knows that in the Venn diagram, the cross section of his supporters, a lot of military, a lot of police. So he wanted to appease those people to keep the fervor up.
I don't even think
technically it's a good idea.
A lot of people that are in the military would look at that decision and go, I mean, he was turned in by his own team because they were so horrified at what the guy did.
We're talking about the military supporters. They're a much wider group in America's breadbasket. We're not talking about the military. You mean not the actual
military. You mean
right, not the actual military. Yeah, the actual military was very upset with what he did because it undermines their authority to discipline the rank and file.
Yeah, but when he did that, there was a lot of people didn't know and didn't get mad at it because they read that they were desensitized to negative Trump headlines. But at the same time, then it creates this weird thing. It's like, okay, well, if he's going to say something ridiculous on a regular basis to stay in the media and get coverage, like, do we not cover it so that when he does something terrible, you'll listen? It's a very difficult thing to do because the way human psychology works, and admittedly even mine as well, I can't listen to the same thing from the same source over and over again. At some point, I'll tune it out. And it was amazing to me to see how that was tuned out, or let's say how the recent pardons were turned out from the Blackwater war criminal. That was horrible stuff, but a lot of people are just sick and tired of hearing the same shit about the same person over and over again, that it just goes over your head because you're just sick and tired of hearing it. And it also
but that's only part of it. The other half of that is that people have been so invested in playing for Team Red that it doesn't really matter what happens at that point, right? I think your guy in the chat, his name is Mo Zamboni. He accused somebody of having TDS. But the thing is, that goes both ways, right? Like, there are people that just say Orange Man bad. Yes, there are many of those people. However, there are also people that say Orange Man good, no matter what Orange Man does. And that problem is just as much of a problem as the opposite. You were saying?
I see very few people that are not ideologically possessed on either side. And honestly, anytime I even remotely bring up stuff like this, there are more people that try to figure out which side I'm on than people that actually listen to anything that I would have to say on the issue. There's a very, I need to figure out what your team is before I can then interpret whatever your argument is. And people seem to get really flustered or uncomfortable when they can't figure out what team you play for. Like, what's interesting is I got a lot of comments today after I admittedly, I did a shitpost title. Like, maybe I'll give myself one. I got 999 lightning bolts. The mail-in ballot has been the Republican secret sauce for election success for years, and Trump blew it up forever.
Yeah, that's actually pretty funny because they were saying that Arizona had mail-in ballots for over 30 years and they were always voted Republican, so the Republicans tried to contest them. Like, it's all, and this is the thing I hate about the Republicans and the Democrats. I hate this so fucking much. Everybody always wants to change the rules when it doesn't work out in their favor. So let's go back to 2016 when Hillary won the popular vote by over 3.5 million votes, right? Then people started crying and complaining about the Electoral College. But when you were winning with the same Electoral College in the past, there was no problem until you lost. It's the same shit. I'm tired of seeing the same shit. Everybody's talking about, no, we're the guys in the right. No, we're the guys in the right. They're wrong.
Remember when
they're going to ruin America.
Trump tweeted in 2012 something along the lines of, this is a travesty. How can a candidate that has more votes lose? And then, in 2016, he votes, wow, the Electoral College means small states get a chance as well. That's great. And to build on the thing, I noticed many people look to what side are you on before they actually listen to what you have to say or are aggravated. Admittedly, the title of my last video, I don't know maybe it was just because today is the first day in a year I've tried that beta-alanine supplement in a while and it kind of makes his face tingle. I just felt like doing a shitposting title. It felt fucking good. That's why I'm like, my hand is vibrating right now because I took two scoops of one.
Because you can't even be snarky anymore without people jumping down your throat about you being a bleeding heart liberal or a heartless, right wing, brainwashed nut job. Like,
here's what I got the most of is what. And again, to be clear, to shitposting title, so fucking shitposting the comment away on that video was and what did you say when people were destroying stores right next to yours 6 months ago? I remember doing a video about Apple and dealing with government, and I said we could protest peacefully, actually peaceful, not mostly peaceful. I got a phone call from you the very next day because you were aggravated at me with the way that I classified that. Right. And then and I remember that phone call. And I remember saying that because every day I would turn on the fucking news and hear about mostly peaceful, and every day I would ride my bike home through a war zone, and this bothered me because I ride through that area. I show up at work. I see what's walking by every day, and like I really am not. If I see a bunch of people with Confederate flags running through the Capitol building, going on the desks, putting their feet up and shit, like.
There is not a single person. There is not a single person who breached security that can be classified as peaceful. Not a single one, because they breached security. They were on federal grounds without proper authorization and consent. Like, they broke the law being within the barriers, period. So from that point on, whether they broke a window or not, they were not peaceful because they were already running afoul of the law just with their presence where they chose to be.
If someone comes into my office, it just because there's not blood on the floor, if someone comes into my
it's still trespassing.
Comes in my office, gets me to invades my office. We evacuate the building, and then post a YouTube stream with their feet on my desk smoking a doobie. That's not like that's not right. And if they destroy the
I do wish
down the
that
street
guy.
3 times, huh?
I do really wish that guy would have set us all up for $5,000 stimulus checks. Like, if you're going to sit there at Nancy Pelosi's desk, do something to help, do something for the people. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't just sit there and write on her manila folders. You know what I'm saying? Slide some money to the rest of the country, son.
What absolutely killed me in that was looking at the bottom left of the screen, and I don't have CSI software. I cannot enhance. I could swear to God I saw a Post-it note that probably had a password on it. And then I saw that he was actually logged into her Windows 10 screen. So either she didn't Windows L key out before evacuating, which, I do that to go to the bathroom at work. And I got way less important shit on my computer than Nancy Pelosi. Or it was Windows L, but she has a Post-it there. And, I think that's what happens when you have 80-year-old members of Congress that run the country. But I agree.
I've seen a lot of people saying that that these politicians need to be capped at they should be made to retire when retirement age, 65, get the fuck out.
Yeah, in China, for certain positions, I think after 70, you don't get to hold your official role. I think they let the person that was head of climate change or whatever in China keep it a little bit longer. But they actually, I was reading an article on that, and that's something I learned today. In China, certain official government roles you just don't keep after you turn 70. You have to trade it in. Not that we should be more like China, but in general.
I want to address this comment from John DeCumo. Capitol Police screwed up their whole security procedures. First line is pepper spray. Second line should be batons, and if you get through the doors, then lethal force. So I want to inform you guys of a situation that happened in 2013. Okay, and you guys can look this up for yourself. There was a woman named Miriam Carey. Okay, Miriam Carey was a 34-year-old black woman who tried to breach the outer rim of security. They said that she was disturbed. She was in some kind of emotional distress, and she tried to breach the outer security. And Capitol Police lit her the fuck up in front of her 13-year-old child. I mean, not 13-year-old, 13-month-old child. They lit her ass up. They didn't even let her get on the grounds, the same grounds where people were just kind of milling about where, again, they were just milling about while trespassing. They were breaking the law as they were milling about. This woman tried to break the outer security. And they lit that car up. They lit her ass up. She's no longer with us. So I just kind of wanted to give you just kind of like just a little bit of context of how everything was handled yesterday. There are a lot of people that believe that the security breaches that we saw were welcomed, that it was somehow some kind of inside job, because I don't think any of us would think that while the Congress is in session, that the police would just back up whenever somebody holding a flag or holding whatever they were holding. I don't think that those officers would keep backing up and backing up and backing up and backing up. Right? Trying very hard to not use lethal force while there are people that have broken into they were in Nancy Pelosi's office. They were on the floor of the Senate. So, if again, like, I know I have to, be very careful because I don't want to seem to be, unfair. But if you look at how some people are treated in certain situations, and you look how other people are treated in certain situations, to me, I don't think it's a coincidence, personally.
I remember one of the things you told me about a year and a half ago when we were discussing I forget exactly what we were discussing, but you were saying that when you're looking at things, or you're looking at these situations where you'll see that black people seem aggravated at how it went down, you have to understand that there's a deep-seated frustration and aggravation at how different people get treated in these situations.
Right. And the thing is, we don't want more people shot, because I know somebody was going to try to go there with me. I knew they were going to try it. And I said this on Black Power Magic Hour, an hour ago. We're not asking the law enforcement officers to treat those people the way they treat the other people. What we're asking is that they admit that they do have the foresight and the wherewithal to show restraint. Because we saw it last night. We saw it all day yesterday. They knew how to restrain themselves. They knew how to disperse crowds without bursting a whole bunch of tear gas and rubber bullets and shoving people on the ground. They showed that they had that kind of restraint yesterday. What certain people are asking for is that you don't suddenly forget how to have that restraint when you're dealing with other kinds of people. That's all. Like, we know that you know how to not, kill protesters. We know how you know how to not run them over in your cars. You know how to not do that, and you demonstrated that. So we want to make sure that is the standard for no matter who you're dealing with. Of course, if the danger escalates, then you have to escalate your response. But what we saw yesterday, they had somebody grab a police riot shield and break the windows and break in. Who gave them a riot shield? Either the police gave it to them, or they assaulted an officer to get it. There's no two ways about it.
They could have 3D printed their own.
It was one of the plastic riot shields that the officers were equipped with. It was the same exact riot shield.
I've seen two different narratives on this. One was that because these were mostly white protesters, the police just kind of let them go through. You see the memes where they have a Cheeto in the lock, and the Cheeto is what's keeping the door closed. And that there's one Twitter video I saw where they're actually letting the people just go right on in, and that's something that would piss off and aggravate a lot of people. I could see. I also the way I saw it in terms of the disparate way that the two groups were treated is just it's a cultural thing. So you have one group that on its fringes is saying, fuck the police, pigs in a blanket, fry them like bacon. You have the reasonable people which are saying...
That is definitely on the fringes. We need to make that very clear.
You have reasonable people that say, just don't shoot people in their car when they tell you I have a gun officer and they haven't done anything wrong. You have people saying, hey, don't shoot a 12-year-old kid that has a toy gun. You have people saying, don't, fucking have a guy die with your knee on his neck when he's at a point where you're surrounded by 4 officers with guns. He's not going to do anything to you. And then you have the people who are like 4 pigs in a blanket, fry him like bacon, who are saying fuck the police, abolish the police, fuck all these people who are openly hostile to them. the police are going to be nastier to them than they are going to be to a group of people who are actually bending over backwards in every situation to say, oh, you fucked up? That's fine. Oh, you pushed a 77-year-old guy down steps and he cracked his head open? That's probably fine. Oh, you did this? That's probably fine. Oh, well, okay, there's a police shooting involved. Well, what did the guy do wrong? Now, that, culturally speaking, the people who were there are on the side that are going to either A, support the police, or B, virtue signal like crazy that they support the police. One or the other, usually. I'm not going to say they don't support the police.
Those people did not look like they believe Blue Lives Matter when they were chasing them all over the Capitol building.
But they claim to, and that's the thing. They've claimed to for many years. It's part of the culture war. That's a part of the culture war. The BLM people, no like police, but these people, they love the police. They have the ribbons and the bumper stickers and all that shit. So,
and I also want to make it clear, a lot of Black Lives Matter don't inherently hate the police. They have a deep distrust of the police, which is not unlike the newfangled distrust of the election system that the Trumpers have. I mean,
we're talking about fringes here. Again, when we're talking about people destroying stores or we're talking about people invading the Capitol, we're not talking with people who have any sort of normal thinking. Once you're setting Macy's on fire or once you're storming the Capitol saying, it was a revolution.
Yeah, the focus is lost at that point.
Yeah, this is purely fringe. I don't mean to say that everybody involved in BLM thinks that about the police.
Oh,
or that.
And we also have to make another disclaimer. Now that you mention it, it's really important that we make the people that stormed the Capitol yesterday do not necessarily represent all MAGA people. They don't necessarily represent all libertarians. They do not necessarily represent all Republicans. And that's something that I have to tell liberals all the time. You need to stop saying that if you're a Republican, that means you are a blank, because that is not true. And correlation and causation are two totally different things. So the people that were there, remember, there were not 70 million people storming the Capitol. It might have been 7,000. Remember, it is a tiny but very loud minority. So we want to make sure that we're not saying that all people that supported Trump for whatever reason, they not all of them are necessarily complicit or even support what happened yesterday. I just want to make sure that that's clear.
As Apple would say in their recall documents, a very small percentage. But yeah, I know people.
A very small percentage were held incorrectly.
I am not a Trump supporter. I don't hate him as much as people in New York do, but I don't like him as much as people who are actually conservative. I know people that are conservative that support Trump that voted for him. I don't know a single fucking person that marched in the Capitol. None of the people that I know that are conservatives that would wear a red hat are actually people that would say, let's march on the Capitol and go into Nancy Pelosi's office. That'll definitely make things better. That's right. But when we're talking about here are groups in the fringes. So when you have a group of people in front of you that have marched with you before, that said Blue Lives Matter, that cared about the police, that always either, again, A, support the police, or B, at the very least, virtue signal a lot about it with the bumper stickers and everything, and they're in front of you, you're probably going to treat them differently than a group of people who are hostile to you. Again,
because like you said in my comment section, they're human.
Yeah, not all BLM people hate the police or want them fried or want them abolished. The people that show up that are about to set every store on fire are probably on that fringe, the same way that the people invading the fucking Capitol are on that fringe. So the police are typically dealing with the fringe at that point. And any policeman that's human, that's not a robot at this point, is going to deal with this group differently than that group. And I know I'm not black, so I don't get to say that this is something where race has nothing to do with it. It's fucking easy for me to say as a white person. But when I see the way this happens, a lot of the people that were doing BLM protests that were hostile towards the police were white people, and they're like, I remember one of the guys who was head of the Proud Boys, who does all sorts of shit. His name is like Enrique something. He's a
Hispanic guy.
Yeah, so like they're not. I don't think that they're looking at the group and saying I'm afraid of them because they are black, or I am not afraid of them because they're white. I think they're saying I am more afraid of them because they are openly hostile to the police, and I am more kind of trusting of this group because they, at the very least, virtue signal law and order very hard, even if that is not what they lived up to when they entered the Capitol.
But you know what bothers me about that?
What?
There's footage of a Capitol police officer who is actually being chased by a bunch of MAGA heads. And he's being chased up the stairs like it's 3:00 and, it's after school. And, he's being, chased by, the local gang of bullies. And he just kept running away from them, and he did not stand his ground. He did not even draw his weapon. I mean, that when I look at that, the stark difference makes me uncomfortable. It's not necessarily that I want to see these guys shot, but it's just that, like, at that point, he looked actually scared for his life, and he kept running away. And I hear a lot of officers say, well, the reason why I shot a young man in his back at close range 7 times is because I was afraid for my life. But this guy is actually being chased up the stairs by a bunch of MAGA, a bunch of MAGA heads. And the dude looks like he's actually terrified, and he doesn't pull his weapon. He does not stand his ground. That it's not that like I wanted any of those guys to die, but me knowing what I've seen, and of course, your viewpoint is probably going to be colored by what color you have. And if you are not constantly shown footage of people that look like you be treated, more aggressively than people that don't look like you, if you're not normally used to seeing that, maybe you didn't feel the same discomfort, but that made me feel uncomfortable.
It took 45
because he definitely had a right. Yeah, he definitely had a right to stand his ground and at least draw his firearm. And those guys would have definitely backed down if he would have just unholstered his weapon, not even pointing it at them. So it just kind of...
I agree. Yeah, a lot of the people that I saw invading, these did not look like trained militants. These look like 4chan kids that pretty much for the most, yeah.
Yeah, ref. I wear a different Coheed shirt every time I go live on any non-video game live stream. Anybody that understands what it's like to be one among the fence. I'm repping all day, every day. I have not taken off this wristband since I got it in 2010. So, I don't. It says once the police lines are broken, you're on your own against a crowd. Yeah, that's true. The dude getting chased was an excellent police officer. It made me feel uncomfortable when they get back up. Yes, that was the second thing I didn't like about that. The dude is getting chased. He's getting chased. Where is his fucking backup? Where was MPD? Where was the National Guard? Where was the fucking backup?
Here's the other thing, the question that I have, because there are people that have been suggesting that this is an inside job and that, well, they knew, they wanted this to happen. And that's something that, like, I could get into that conspiracy theory a little bit, because, again, if the police are Trump supporters and this is a bunch of Trump supporters protesting, maybe they would let it go through. The part I don't get is Muriel Bowser. She is not a fan of Trump in any way, shape, or form. She's probably one of the...
But she said she said that she made a request and it was denied.
Yeah, so I read this one thing, and this is from the Federalists. It says, to be clear, the District of Columbia is not requesting other federal law enforcement personnel and discourages any additional deployment without immediate notification to and consultation with MPD if such plans are underway. Bowser wrote in a letter to acting U.S. Attorney General Jeffrey Rosen. So is there more to the story there that I'm missing? Because it seems like she's saying, we know there's going to be a clusterfuck. We know that this is the day that there's going to be a bunch of shit going down, but we're not asking for the assistance from the very people that will help this not happen.
Remdog Cap, I did see the entire video, but I feel like the backup should have come to him because anything could have happened to him on those stairs. Anything could have happened to him. I don't understand the conceding of ground. This is the motherfucking Capitol building. I mean, they had agents behind a fucking piece of furniture with their fucking arms drawn because they thought that people were going to try to storm where all the senators or reps were huddling. Like they had politicians who were veterans of Iraq and Afghanistan who caught cases of PTSD. They were transported mentally back to the battlefield. That's the kind of fear that they had. I feel like the backup, he should not have had to lead them the backup. They should have been there to back him up. And I just feel like, again, and Lewis made a good point. They feel like these are our kindred spirits. We're going to handle them with kid gloves. What I saw yesterday was a lot of kid gloves, a lot. And I feel like I don't even know how that's a fucking dispute. How is that in dispute?
I get the kid
Because
gloves
again,
from the
if it was a BLM protest, they don't get that far. They just if it was a bunch of black people there, they do not get that far. Period.
I would push back a tiny bit there, but not on the black people part, but on the protesting part, because like in New York City, we had a couple of days where everything went crazy and a bunch of shit was broke and then went back to normal. But then when you look in Portland, that was like month after month after month after month of fire and riot and broken buildings. They were using lasers to blind agents and all sorts of shit. It got that far before the stuff was put down. I think it's a case of when you have people in power in a particular area that are sympathetic to the causes of the people who are protesting, they're going to get handled with kid gloves instead of getting handled in a different manner. So if I'm trying to figure out how to put this, if Cuomo, de Blasio, and AOC were in power in D.C. and Trump William Barr and Mike Pence were in power in New York, you would have seen a lot less protesting getting this far, either last year or this year on both sides. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because I saw protests handled the kid gloves.
Kopaz asked a good question. Read Kopaz's question.
Let's see. How much faith do you have in humanity after this event?
That's a really good fucking question.
Not a lot, honestly.
I will say this. I thought I was watching a movie. Like I was in sheer I did not expect to see what I saw. I thought I was watching a movie because that's how a lot of the dystopian, end of the U.S. government, we're about to, press the buttons, we're going to input the nuclear codes. That's how a lot of the footage I saw yesterday looked like a lot of that, blankety blank has fallen type movie.
I can understand. I'm not saying it's right. I can understand the police treating the MAGA protesters with kid gloves.
That's why Barbie Roberts is countering everything I say. So you had a dog in the fight, so I can't criticize your position too much. She says that her store was looted and burned personally. So yeah, you have I think it was you, Lewis, you said in a video that when you don't give people the means to defend their businesses or to open their businesses, you're now giving them a financial incentive to not comply. And I think that what I'm seeing here with Barbie Roberts is she has been wronged. She has been victimized. And, this is the ideology that she's going to go with regardless. It wasn't any MAGA heads that burned her store down. It was, people that claim that they believe that Black Lives Matter that burned her store down. So, I think that definitely has a lot to do with her position. So I can't blame her for that.
One thing she said.
I know it's not personal. She's not going personally at me.
Yeah. But one thing she said here was that you didn't see anybody burning down the police stations or courthouses yesterday. One of the
they did plant bombs though.
One of the few pieces of credit that I will give is this is something I've discussed with you personally many times, they had, whether or not it was warranted, whether or not they dealt with it properly, they had a problem with the Senate and the Congress, and they went up to Senate and Congress, and they invaded Senate and Congress. What drove me nuts with what I saw in May and June was we have a problem with police and our elected officials. We are going to make sure that Korean barbecue, Macy's, and Target knows it, and that's just the part where, again, when they went to the point of burning down the police station in Minneapolis, I wasn't even criticizing that part. You have a problem with the police. You dealt with the police. You work it out amongst yourself. It was when they started involving things that just genuinely had nothing to do with it. And I can hear what they're trying to do. They're saying, well, if nobody listens to us, we're going to make normal people listen to us. We're going to make them notice. But I had no sympathy for it. The one thing that I gave that I could notice here is they had a problem with Congress and the Senate. They said, we're taking this to the fucking Congress and the Senate. And one thing I mentioned to you in your stream earlier was, honestly, I'm not a fan of violence, but I wish that Congress, that the House and the Senate, when they were voting on anything that affects normal people, had the fear in their eyes that they had today. but not because of the getting it. I wish that they thought, when I vote in favor of lobbyists, and I screw everybody, I screw Democratic citizens and I screw Republican citizens of the country en masse to serve the person who gave 200,000.
They need to have that kind of fear.
I wish they had that kind of fear. I wish they had that look in their eye that they had that I saw yesterday. Because I don't think that the Senate or the House of Representatives or the executive branch has any sense of fear as to what could happen if they repeatedly fuck over the American people again and again and again.
Mm-hmm. I agree with Elliot Hacker. If you think all those guys over there are being brainwashed and propagandized, but you are not, you are sorely mistaken. That is the position that I take. That's the position that I take. Like I do a show that on a liberal network, and I have never shied away from the fact that I do a show on a liberal network, but I'm also launching another show that is going to be decidedly less liberal. It's going to be more, it's going to be my own personal platform, not a different platform. Because when I am in liberal circles, they call me an incel. They call me, they call me all kinds of derogatory things because I don't agree with them to the degree that they believe that I should agree with them. But he said, yet you repeated multiple points of propaganda. Actually, I haven't. I'm talking about shit I saw with my own eyes. I don't like to comment on things that I have not seen with my own eyes. And one of the things about perception that is kind of messed up is that if you're Elliot Hacker and you haven't been, in a situation, you haven't grown up where I've grown up and seen what I've seen and experienced what I've experienced, then you're going to look at the same situation and you're going to interpret it differently. We saw the same exact event, but the interpretation's different. And my interpretation is through my own eyes and what I have experienced. So, and I think I've said this on your stream before in the past, Lewis, that I thought that we were living in a post-racial society until the murder of Trayvon Martin. I thought that racism was over. In fact, I grew up believing that all of the problems in the black community were caused by black people. That's what I grew up believing. I believed that up until the acquitted decision came down and George Zimmerman walked free after he stalked someone and then used deadly force after he stalked someone against, he went against the directives of the police that he had called. And when I saw all the cheering, like if you think the guy was innocent or not, we can debate that. But that's not really the problem that I had. The problem that I had is I saw all the cheering. And then I knew, I was like, damn, maybe things are not what I thought they were, because my experiences have been different. Until that point, I had not experienced racism from white people. All the racism I had experienced had come from black people. So I grew up thinking that, the black plight was caused by black people. And then I saw more instances that showed me that I was incorrect. And I looked through all of the evidence that I can find, and I just called it the way I saw it. So it's not about being brainwashed, sir. Elliot, this is about me calling it exactly the way I see it. This is one of the things that irritates the shit out of me on both sides, is that if I don't agree with you to the degree that you believe I should agree with you, then I'm brainwashed and propagandized. And I don't like it when it's done to the right. I'm not going to accept it when it's coming at me. I do believe that there are people that are brainwashed and propagandized on both sides. I don't identify with either side. I look at the fucking evidence. I look at the footage that I see. I look at the experiences that I've experienced. And then I make determinations accordingly.
Barbie says it was stand your ground. It was self-defense. It wasn't stand your ground. It was self-defense. I remember there was this one time, and you mentioned this. I was doing a stream.
You can't call self defense if you are chasing after somebody when the police tells you to leave them alone.
I remember
That's not self-defense.
There was this one video that you because I wasn't as on the Trayvon Martin side of that case until you explained it to me in this way, and maybe it'll. Kopaz was following me home on my bike, and I thought it was weird, and I kept saying like, "Stop! You can stop now. I don't want you following me home." And then at one point, I stopped while I was doing the video, and this is on recording somewhere on YouTube. So one of my old bike videos has this. I stop and I turn around, I get off my bike, and I say, "Turn around before I do something to you that's going to cause those people to come here and arrest both of us." And then he got the idea and stopped fucking following me. And he said, and then you said that's pretty much how Trayvon Martin probably felt while he was being stalked around the neighborhood. And it's one of those weird things because I think I'm not really used to the idea of someone following me around a neighborhood. That's literally happened to me once in my life, but they immediately tried to fight me and then try to
the people who followed me around my neighborhood were other black people trying to hurt me, and I didn't do anything to anybody.
But I don't really know how in that moment how I would deal with that situation. Someone's following me that I don't want to follow me. That's clearly trailing and following me. What do I do? I mean, I could say stop, but if they don't stop, what do I do? And, in this case, the difference between Zimmerman and Kopaz is that Kopaz turned around and went the fuck home.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Barbie Roberts, you're factually incorrect. The police did when he called the police, they said that they would send somebody out there, but do not follow. The police dispatcher, there is audio recording of it. Like, that is not in dispute. That audio recording was one of the reasons why the murder charge was brought against Zimmerman in the first place. And it was entered into evidence. It is a matter of public record.
One of the things that aggravated me about that trial as well, there were a few things that made me question it, were A, I was sick and tired of seeing Zimmerman Photoshop to be whiter than he actually was. B, when NBC posted the 911 call, they did edit it, and they got fucking sued for it. And I think they settled or they lost, I forget. But they edited the 911 call. So if Barbie didn't hear the entire thing, while they were editing it to make Zimmerman sound worse than they did, they may have also accidentally chopped out the part of the call where it was very clear. And I heard that audio, the one where they said, I forget what wording they use, you shouldn't follow or don't follow or something like that. It was something like, it's our suggestion you don't follow. I forget the exact transcript, and if someone posted in the chat, I'd appreciate it. But what aggravated me initially and made me initially think Trayvon did something wrong was when I see in the news you photoshopped Zimmerman's face to look more white. That immediately just made me say fuck you, and that's why, right. And that's a part of what causes the media the polarization that you have. Because regardless of what happened, and what happened, I think was a tragedy to Trayvon, was that the worst part, the other bad part that was going on there was that the people who are presenting the information to me clearly have a bias of their own. Like, you could have just presented it as it was. I don't need to see his face photoshopped to a different color. You don't have to show me all of this stuff. The case,
it's a lot of psychological manipulation, and it makes it very hard to, if you're a person like me, it makes it very hard for me to make a definitive statement on something when there's so many attempts to subvert the perception of the situation. So again, we're talking about misinformation long before deepfakes were ever a thing. And, I get it. Some people are going to have certain ideologies, and no matter what their ideology is, they're going to roll with whatever their ideology tells you. If you think that Trayvon Martin deserved to die after being followed by some random guy, then you think that those people yesterday were justified in what they did, or you at least identify with why they did it. If you believe that, then you also believe that the BLM protests are bad. If you believe in that. So I get it. Like, everybody has their ideologies, and there are people on the other side that says, you know what, that business got burned down, but I don't care about that because, Black Lives Matter. You're going to get those people too. I get it. I know what I'm in for when I enter these discussions. I'm just saying, if you think that I've been propagandized by social media, then I think that you also need to look in the mirror and understand that assessment also applies to you.
The one part that has bothered me is that anytime I have this conversation, I either wind up pissing off one side or the other because I don't see all these cases as the same. The part that's frustrated me is when I see them all in the same list. Like Tamir Rice, no sympathy for the cop, fine. Philando Castillo, he was carrying a legal gun. He said, I have this here just so you know while I'm reaching for my wallet. I'm not trying to shoot you, whatever. They shoot him anyway. If the cop gets fried, I have no sympathy. I forget the name of the guy that actually shot someone in the back while he was running away. He wound up going to jail for at least 25 years. Fry him, no sympathy. Tamir Rice, person who shot him, no sympathy. George Floyd, the person, the Chauvin, I don't have any sympathy. Then the guy
the dude that killed Ahmaud Arbery in Georgia.
No sympathy. Then I hear then there was the case in Georgia in the Wendy's where the guy is drunk. The Wendy's call the cops.
That was a little bit more murky though. I kind of feel like the guy put himself in position by being in a motor vehicle while intoxicated. So he invited the interaction with police.
He parked in he parked in the drive-through, blocking it for other customers. Fine, right. Whatever. You take him aside. Yeah. They were very polite throughout the entire interaction. Very polite. Give him a breathalyzer, sir. You're going to be under arrest, whatever. And then he tries to run away. Then they try to tackle him, and then they try to beat him off. Then he's that didn't sound right.
Pause.
Pause. They attack. He tries to remove them. Then the taser shit happens. Then he grabs the taser, turns around, and it's like, I get it. I get why people are salty because they have said before that when they use a taser, they're not using something deadly. So why do I get to use deadly force against you for the taser when you don't get in trouble in court for using a taser against me? I get the saltiness there, but at the same time. Yeah. Come on.
Yeah, because I think he did take the taser, but the thing is, when he pointed the taser, he didn't even point the taser. He just kind of threw it behind him to try to get away.
But still, come on. You're gonna take the cop's taser and then run around Georgia drunk with a taser that you stole from a cop.
Well, I mean, he was drunk, so he definitely wasn't in his right mind. But I just kind of feel like, there were two forces at play there. One, I don't think that guy thought that he was going to get out of there alive. I think that he saw He saw what happened to George Floyd. He saw, he's seen, all the protests, because this was only several days after that. I think that he saw all of those things and thought, if I don't try to get out of here, they're going to kill me anyway.
I don't think that's the case, because if you look at the 30 minutes of discourse they had, that cop was actually very, very polite to him. He wasn't being an asshole. He wasn't being snarky. There was this one thing I saw around Camden, New Jersey 5 years ago where the cop was being as snarky as humanly possible, and I wouldn't trust him. They acted in an upstanding manner. Now, afterwards...
one second. I just want to salute Mo Zamboni. He gave the $5 super chat. For the continuance of civil discourse, no matter the subject or level of disagreement, have a good night. I'm tired as fuck. Thank you for coming through. Like I said, we're not going to agree on everything, but I do respect the fact that you have your opinion and they're dearly held. And I'm not here to make you feel bad about your opinion. I'm just here to tell it like I see it.
Yeah, like when I saw that situation in the Wendy's, and then after all that is done, the Wendy's gets burned down because the Wendy's called the cops. Because, if I'm making $7 an hour at a Wendy's, it's my job to get that drunk guy that's in his car out of the drive-thru. No. I'm not being a hero for $7 an hour at Wendy's. And the cops there, okay, granted, you two cops could not restrain one drunk person. He's drunk.
Who was just sleeping. He was just sleeping, too.
He's drunk and sleeping, and he manages to get the taser from two cops. I'm not saying that those cops are innocent there. That is some either bad fucking training, bad practice. You're not hitting the gym. You're not doing your routines, whatever the hell. That's not a good routine, but, I don't put that in the same space as Tamir Rice. So, the Jacob Blake case where someone...
Oh, yeah, definitely not the same. Definitely. And the Jacob Blake case is not the same either. Because that was also a little bit too. John DeCumo says the guy wasn't afraid of being killed. He didn't want to go to jail. He had a criminal record. See, John, you say that from the position of somebody, again, you don't understand the fear of black people. You just don't understand it because you haven't been subjected to it. And that's okay. I'm glad that you don't have that fear. But please do not for a second pretend like you know what is in the hearts and minds of a black person when I'm in the circles of black people and I know how black people think. I've been in this skin for over 37 years. And I can tell you what the fears actually are. And there used to be a fear of being incarcerated. But now motherfuckers are fearing that they're not even going to make it to the prison. They're not even going to they're not even going to make it to get booked. Yes, he had a warrant. Yes, he had a criminal record. There are plenty of white people that have criminal records, but a lot of them don't have the fear that the police are there to kill them. Here in the United States, black people have that fear. And if you don't recognize that or you can't relate, then just say, hey, I can't relate, man. I'm not used to having that kind of fear. And I would definitely accept that. But to try to say that you know exactly what his motivations are, and he's not even here to be able to defend himself because he's dead, I don't think it's fair for you to say what his frame of mind was when he had just watched George Floyd die under the knee of a police officer. And then he ends up dead right after that. To say that he didn't have a fear for his life, well, he's just, pulling the trigger on the taser and doing anything he can to get away when he's been incarcerated before.
I feel bad for the person if they think that
wasn't his fear.
I feel bad for him if he thinks that. At the same time, I can't. I just can't say it's okay. Like, if he believes that, I'm not going to say he doesn't believe that. I feel bad that he believes that, but like. You tackled a cop, you took his taser, you ran away, and you went to turn it around. Like, at some point, stupid games.
I'm just kind of like, yeah, that's what I'm saying. You play stupid games, you win stupid prizes.
And again, the cops there did not do everything according to the book. There's the principle of auditory exclusion. There's the way that you go about arresting someone. They were yelling conflicting orders, and also when you're both yelling orders, people's heads just turn off in the moment when they're scared. There's many videos on this basic principle.
The officers did the best that they could under the circumstances simply because they knew that the heat was on them. Every police officer in the country feels like the heat is on them, so there's double and triple guessing themselves, and they had to make a decision, which is why I don't necessarily have too much of a problem with that particular shooting, because I think that the conflicting commands that they gave, I believe, was out of genuine fear. So I don't demonize those guys at all. I think that they were in a pretty untenable situation. The problem is that the man that one of them shot is not here. He's not here anymore. One thing that I did have a problem with in that situation is that they did not do first aid. They didn't try. They didn't. It didn't seem like they were trying to save him while he was bleeding out on the sidewalk. So if there's any...
In the Wendy's case or in the Jacob Blake case?
In the Wendy's case.
Okay, sorry, I forgot.
I think in the Jacob Blake case, they did try to do first aid.
I think they did try to do first aid in the Wendy's one, but I'm not 100% sure. If someone, feel free to fact check me on that.
No, the officer who did not shoot kicked the guy that was just shot in the back. He kicked him in the head after that, which is why he is facing assault charges, and that's on camera.
But I remember with the Jacob, when I read the entire story and I see they say stop, he's going around his car, he goes to reach for something, and it's like I'm always, and this is probably not the way to look at it. I look at it as you've always said this. You always look at things from what you would do or you. What would I do in the situation if a cop is saying stop, freeze? I'm not putting my hands under the fucking seat of my car. Like at that point, if I get a bullet in the head, I've asked for it.
And right. But my problem wasn't even that he shot Jacob Blake, is that he shot him 7 times.
This reminds me. Do you know who Sheriff Grady Judd is of Polk County in Florida? Okay, he is a sheriff that is almost a meme. And there was this one person who I believe was white who had tried to kill or killed one of their deputies, and they shot the guy about 70 or 78 times. And when the reporters came up and said, why did you shoot him 75 times? He said something like, I don't know, it probably ran out of bullets. We probably ran out of ammunition. We probably would have done some more. Anyway, this is like 4 or 5 years old, but it was absolute. The how many shots things is I think you're trained to keep going and going. Like Jack, there's Jack Bauer where it's like, where you're trained to shoot him only once because you need to extract serious information from him. You need to extract where the bomb is. So you can only shoot once. You must shoot in the knee or in the arm. Or Jack Bauer has like shot the gun out of people's hands, and then there's police that get $30,000 or $35,000 in the middle in a small town somewhere.
Yeah, but we also have to. Have you ever been to a gun range before?
I have never shot a gun, so anything about guns, I'm absolutely clueless.
You and I need to go to a gun range, and you need to see what it's like actually handling a firearm. In fact, I think that you should stream it because the thing that you have to understand when you have a firearm in your hand, the effective range where you can actually pinpoint is probably out to like 20 meters, maybe 20 meters. You start to get bullet drop. You have wind resistance, different wind conditions. You have the bullet velocity. If you're using a handgun, like most police officers, the speed that the bullet travels is going to be slower. So it's going to hit the friction of the air. And it's going to deviate. So you can't aim like Jack Bauer for little bits and pieces. They have to aim for center mass, because if you're aiming for bits and pieces of bodies, then you could actually hit bystanders. We actually saw this happen in New York, where there was some standoff near the Empire State Building, and the cops, I guess, were trying to be extra careful, and then they ended up shooting at this guy a bunch of times, and they only hit the bystanders. They didn't actually hit the guy that they was trying to hit. So you can't aim. You got to deal with recoil. You got to deal with adrenaline. There's so many factors, which is why I think that sometimes the cops get a bad rap. Sometimes, but not every time does a cop get a bad rap. But one of these days, you got to come with me to a gun range. There's a good one in New Jersey where you don't need a gun license. And they make sure everything is super safe. They got a bunch of different guns you can fire. It would definitely help shape your perception of the use of firearms, but it also goes to the training, right? A lot of these officers do need to spend more time in de-escalation training, and they do just need to spend more time at the range.
Yeah, Paul was telling me about how the training that you get in the Marine Corps as a marksman.
Barbie is right. Cops are usually poor marksmen. They don't get enough training. Oh, yes. And Loki YD, you make a good point. The difference between range and live situation is there, too. Absolutely. Like I said, you add adrenaline into it. You've got the gun bucking in your hand. You're supposed to be in control of the situation. There are a whole lot of factors that police officers have to try to factor in all in a split second.
I forget how we got into this particular conversation. This conversation was, when it comes to the BLM stuff, the one thing that frustrated me was that all the names get put on the same list, rather than it being, well, these are egregious, these are, and this is just, and the ones that are not, what they're advertised to be. But before that we got into this discussion because of what appeared to be disproportionately harsh treatment of the BLM protesters versus the Cheeto in the door lock for the MAGA protesters.
Mm-hmm.
I forget what we were on before that.
But I do want to address Marquez Wilson. Range need ammo. Ammo costs money. Defund the police. Am I right? Marquez, it is apparent to me that you do not understand what defund the police actually means. So I'm going to explain it to you. Defund the police is a movement to try to reallocate funds from the police department towards community organizations to reduce the need to call the police. The defund the police movement, in effect, is an attempt to take away 6 or 7 different responsibilities that do not belong to police. Police are not specially trained to deal with mentally ill people or emotionally disturbed people. They should not be called in because you saw that somebody was homeless. They should not be called in because somebody stayed in their parking spot for 2 hours too long. The police are given responsibilities that are well outside the scope of law enforcement. Police officers should only be asked to do law enforcement. Then they should be paid well enough to do only law enforcement. If you're having an argument in your house with your spouse, the police they don't always need to be called for that, right? If somebody is violent in that situation, now we call the police because somebody has harmed someone or is going to harm someone. So the goal of defunding the police is actually to pay individual police officers more money because they are not paid enough for the job that they do. But it is also to take pressure and responsibility away from police officers that does not belong to them in the first place. We've put too much on their minds. So if you want to go back to the situation in the Wendy's, you're talking about a drunk guy who was sleeping in a drive-thru, right? Maybe somebody else could have been called for that situation. But now you've got a guy who's fearful because there are cell phone cameras in their faces, and they really did try to de-escalate that situation. If you look at the footage of when the cops approached the car and they woke him up, they did not intend to kill that man. But they had to worry about 6 or 7 different fucking factors when they could have just been called only when there's an actual dangerous situation where somebody's life is in danger. That is what the defund the police movement is. Now, you do have people on the fringes that say abolish the police. I'm not with those people because our society has been structured in such a way, the cat's out of the bag, you need police departments. But you also need to make sure that officers are only burdened with the job of law enforcement and only that. And then you put money into law enforcement for the enforcements of law. You take all the other money and you put it into programs and situations that would take situations that the police would normally have to be called and reduce the amount of interaction that people actually have to have with the police. That is the point. Not to make sure they don't have enough bullets for their gun, not to make sure they don't have enough bulletproof vests or uniforms, is to make sure that police are given one job to do instead of 7.
I think that is firstly, I think that the defund the police as a label for the movement is fairly horrible branding. So, I actually went to and walked through one of the protests around the middle of June, and I recorded it, and there were signs. And some of them, said, get rid of de Blasio and Cuomo, which I thought was hysterical because there's a lot of conservatives in Staten Island that would love to get rid of de Blasio and Cuomo. But what I saw was one sign that said defund the police. And then the other one, he was walking right next to someone who said abolish the police. And then under it said, yes, really. And they were talking, they were joking, and they were walking side by side right next to each other. So when people say defund the police does not mean abolish the police, but you see many protests where the signs are right next to each other and they're talking to each other and they are on the same side, it really does make you wonder, what does that actually mean? Or is this a Trojan horse to actually get rid of the police? And I think this is something that you talked about a few years ago, where if you have people who are making a reasonable request and they're not listened to, then the people who are insane are the one that do get listened to, or which is, again, how you get to you get to people storming the Capitol without even going to Modell's to buy $10 goggles and then going, they maced me. We were supposed to have a revolution. We're going to storm it. And they don't have, that's a ridiculous person. But they got there because the reasonable people were not listening.
Went unheeded. Exactly.
But I don't buy defund the police as actually what you said, personally, because I have met or seen enough people that are walking right next to someone where their sign says abolish the police. I believe that you believe what you believe. When you hear defund the police, I believe that that's what you're for. I don't think you're for abolishing it.
But I've actually interviewed politicians in our city that have discussed it on my show.
And then that's another.
I didn't pull this out of my own ass.
That's another point, which is that when people say
in the movement. Now, if you want to say that defund the police is not a good way to market your idea, I give you that. Because it definitely it's not. Defund means to take away. It's too vague. Like, I was able to explain item for item what it actually is, But the thing is that they left room for people who don't share the ideology to say that defund the police is whatever they think that it is, and not actually what is being said. Just like with the whole thing with Colin Kaepernick. Colin Kaepernick says, I don't think that, that the United States is living up to the national anthem because of the way black people are treated. And then people said, no, he's actually protesting the military. And then when he says, I'm not protesting the military, they say, no, you are protesting the military. But that's not the problem. I don't have a problem with the military. I have a problem with how black people are treated by law enforcement. No, you have a problem with the military.
The other thing there with the defund the police, when someone, because the person who you were responding to was 110% trolling you. Marquez was not arguing in good faith, as you could tell by his other comments. But when he said this is about not having money for the for the actual police, the police budget in New York City throughout, what was in the $5 billion range, while the city was getting cleaned up from all the crackhead stuff of the early 90s, when we were able to decrease crime exponentially from where it was in 2001 or 2005 or 2010, that entire period of cleanup was happening at around $5 billion. So how to get to $6 billion, how to get to $7 billion, how to get to more, that's right. A lot of money. And I agree that money could likely be used to help people not get to the point where they're doing this shit to begin with. If you were able to get rid of all the crime and you were able to have all the bullets to be able to do all the shootings that you did at $5 billion, I know inflation is a bitch, but what do you need 7 for right now?
Yeah,
also,
I think
one guy gave $100 2 times, so I just feel I have to read this.
Oh yeah,
valid point. How does one achieve that in Middle America, not only in population centers, but in BFE? I don't know what BFE stands for, and I feel stupid for not knowing that. Do you know what BFE stands for?
Valid point, but how does one achieve that in Middle America? Not only, but
we have to identify a way to actually enact change without worrying about PC culture, without worrying of political party wishes, just definitive ways to move forward. I think you need to have people that are not for this, team red or team blue to actually enact real change. Because right now people are just focused on, A, what side are you on? B, once I've classified you, I'm going to go to war with you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How dare you say I'm trolling? Oh, come on, man. I'm reading the same comments you're posting. Again, I'm responding to your point, but simultaneously you're fucking trolling. Come on.
I thought it was big fucking eggs. I don't know why eggs was the fucking the E word that I thought of, but maybe it's just because I'm hungry.
Got stabbed to death, silly man. I don't know. Oh, BFE equals in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, that's not a good acronym.
Fuck Egypt, very rural, small towns. Yeah, that's a bad acronym. While we're in the middle of talking about bad branding of defund the police, that is a bad acronym.
Yeah. Yeah, so my thing is I'm not going to argue with you if you think that the branding of defund the police isn't good, but when the NYPD committed to defunding the police, they cut $900 million off of a $6 billion budget. They did not go from $6 billion to zero. They went from $6 billion to $5 billion. Now, it was $5 billion during the time of that corrupt guy Bloomberg. Why would we need an extra billion if the crime rate was as low as it was at $5 billion? They didn't need to continue to militarize the police force that was already successful. The police, if you think about it, we haven't had but only a handful of cases that made it to national news where excessive force was even, nobody was complaining about excessive force like that during the Bloomberg years. They had the stop and frisk thing, and that was unconstitutional, but we weren't constantly saying the police were beating the shit out of us and shooting us. And that was at $5 billion.
Yeah, the truly sad thing is that what you were talking about and advocating for is reallocating these funds to other groups that could potentially help them. 2021 is not going to be the year of defund the police. It's going to be the year of defunding everything. There's 45% of the revenue for the city comes in from property taxes, which comes in from landlords taking rent from people and paying it to the city. And a lot of the city appears to be, at least the richer sections or the parts in Midtown Manhattan where all the people are paying all this money are emptying out. So they did lower the police budget, but I don't know how they're reallocating that anywhere else because I don't see there being money for anything else.
Right.
Also, I will read your comment if you give $1. Honestly, Dr. Evil's been reading comments for $0. Just want to let you know. I'll take it.
Man.
Thank you.
But I have to, that's too much money for me to be looking at. Like.
Thank you, truly, from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. I just want to make sure you know you don't have to give $1 for me. You can give $1 and I'll still read it. But I appreciate
he just gave you half of his stimulus check, son.
Yeah, that's sad. That's sad that you can measure that in terms of stimulus checks. We are exactly where we started. BFE was in the quote intentionally. We've now focused on nothing except for that stupid acronym. I respect you, Lewis, honestly. Oh, come on. We brought up the point. I think we brought up the point. We have to identify what actually enact change without worrying about PC culture.
Yeah, I think, if you want to swing the conversation to PC culture, because I'm going to look at his comment one more time. It deserves to be looked at again.
I think the issue here is you just have people that are at each other's throats. I don't even think it's a question of PC culture. It's that as long as people are at each other's throats and on edge as much as they are, they're not going to concede anything, even if it's a remotely reasonable point to somebody else, because they feel like that person is then going to run with it.
Yeah, I just feel like too many people are just too. They're just too married to the game, and I think that it's hurting them, it's hurting us. I think that PC culture is one of the worst things that's happened to us as a society, because it immediately puts you on the defensive. If people are constantly trying to police your speech at every turn and telling you what you can say and what you cannot say, you feel silenced. And again, 8 years of Obama, again, I'm not blaming Obama, but a lot of Obama's followers, it was PC on steroids, and I felt like it was, it gave us what we have today. I think that if you want to focus on the issue now, we got to start defending the First Amendment.
How do we make it better? I think a big part of it is
don't agree with us.
When you hear something from someone else that is something that you would typically become emotionally aggravated at and want to pick up your sword to protect it, just listen. Actually listen to the whole thing. This took me a good 3 years to start doing again. I'll be honest, because it's easy to get to a point where I'm so aggravated at hearing the same shit over and over again that, again, as I said in the beginning of the stream, people's brain just starts to turn off, and I'm sick of hearing the same thing from the same source over and over again. I'm fighting back against it. I think for a period of time, it was easy for me to start turning off my brain. So now when I hear something like that, I've done my best to get to a point where I can listen to it without becoming actually emotionally angry and aggravated in the moment that I'm hearing something that counters my own belief system.
It's funny.
People have to figure out how to do that, and that's a fucking hard thing to do, because I honestly don't even know how I figure. I just stopped doing it one day, but it's not something where I can explain to someone else how to stop doing it, and people have to be at that point.
You know what? I think, Jeremiah, like I just highlighted his comment, how do we focus on the issue? Jeremiah, I think you're witnessing it right here and now. I don't know if anybody in the chat has quite understood exactly how I'm approaching this comment section, but I'm not attacking, what's the young lady's name with the business that burned down?
Barbie?
Yeah, Barbie. I'm not attacking Barbie. Barbie and I obviously don't agree on some very material issues, but I'm not attacking her. I'm recognizing where she's coming from. She's a human fucking being, and she has her viewpoints based upon what life has taught her, based upon what she's seen. And I'm here telling you about the way that I see things based upon what I've experienced and what I've seen. So for us to be able to sit here and be in the comments section and talk to each other and not throw barbs at each other and not attack each other and just say, you know what? I just fucking disagree. I'm not saying, hey, Barbie, you're a racist because you disagree. No, she told me what she's gone through. She's told me what she's seen, what she's experienced, and that has shaped her viewpoint. And if we stop trying to find out where people are racist and sexist and phobic, and if we stop trying to destroy other people's lives for disagreeing with us, and we actually try to listen and understand where people are coming from, this is how we address PC culture. This is how it gets done. It starts with me getting a call from Rossman, because me and Rossman had some spirited debates on the gym floor. I mean, we were infamous for it. But we had the discussions that were necessary because they were necessary. You know what? It wasn't all me trying to, dump a bunch of bleeding heart liberal shit and cram it down his throat. No, I learned a lot from Lewis and his, very cerebral approach to these kinds of subjects. I'm also a cerebral person, but I also understand that there's an emotional component to some of these facts. The behavior of a human being creates facts, but the motivations for those human beings are emotions. And we have to recognize that, and we have to be able to see one side and the other. So anytime I see somebody saying some racist shit, I seek out conversation with them to understand where they're coming from. And then you find out that they're really not as racist as they're trying to make themselves out to be. They're just fucking angry and they're tired of not being heard. And I think that if we allowed people to express themselves in anger without judging their character as evil, I think that we can go a long way. But the thing is, it starts with you and me. It starts with comment sections like this. It starts with me running into Lewis on the gym floor. It starts with us, and we have to be able to we have to be willing to engage in respectful discourse, whether we agree with each other or not. And then that is going to be the way people start voting. The politicians are going to have to pay attention to how civil discourse is being held, and then they're going to have to follow suit, or they're not going to get elected. And that's how it moves up the board.
That makes sense. How do we do that?
Oh my gosh!
We're doing it. We're doing it right here. It's actually being done right here.
Hopefully this is the example. How many times have we insulted each other or assumed the worst intentions of each other because we disagree?
0 times.
Yeah, I mean, just do this.
0
I mean, this is really it. How do we do that? Well, I think you have to get people to a point where they want to do that. Do you want to own the other side? Do you want to stay in an echo chamber, or do you want to speak to?
Yeah, so the problem is both sides are pulling too hard. The left and right are supposed to be counterweights so we don't tip the boat. Stop trying to force people to take your side. I cannot agree with you more. Sometimes just being able to disagree, it's a good skill to have. If you believe in something, say it forcefully, say it with your chest, but also allow people to have their own fucking views. I hate this whole thing, the newest religion, atheism. I mean, they've basically turned into a group of people that are now infamous just for trying to shit on other people's beliefs. Like, if you don't believe in God, great. It's your fucking business. But don't shit on the next guy. So, yeah, I definitely agree with you, but I think, again, it starts here.
Having heated discussions without the urge to bash heads is progression.
Yes.
And honestly, it's easier said than done. It's easier. I fail at that so often.
Mm-hmm.
I try not to fail, but it's hard to. I'm human.
Brett D says never assume the worst, right? Every single time I hear some shit from somebody trying to bark at me that this Trumper is a racist and all this other stuff, I have to remind people that nobody wakes up in the morning and says, you know what? I'm going to harm people today. I want to be a fucking douchebag. You know what? I think that I'm going to go try to find, some black person to go hurt, or I'm going to go search out a gay person or a white person. No, I don't think it's like that at all. I just think that we've gotten so rabidly partisan that it's almost like we're at a part where people they would feel weak if they turned back towards normal discourse. They would feel like they backed down. I don't see you. Remember, I can't see you. I think you're just reading the comments.
Yeah,
All right,
I was reading the comments.
Yeah, I'm reading it too.
I started to get a little tired.
Yeah, my point, Barbie, is that it's not about being it's not about being prejudiced against atheists. Like I said, if you don't believe in God, do you? But can we stop short of shitting on other people's beliefs? Can we do that? I'm pretty anti-religion myself, but you know, don't underestimate how evil people can actually be. They can be evil, but we are not inherently evil. And I think that we need to get away from thinking, if you don't agree with me, you're a bad person. We need to get away from that.
They say, okay, so let's say you walk into a bar, you talk about the siege in the Capitol. They say that it was warranted.
They call me a liberal. They call me an Uncle Tom. Like in the same chat.
That's how you know you're doing a good job. So
yeah.
And then he says, what do you say? Well, I mean, the first thing that I would say is, why do you believe that, and what led you to your current belief system? I want to actually understand why do you believe what you believe? I'm not going to fight what you believe because I'm not fighting the underlying structure. Why do you believe that? Why do you see the world that way? Why do you choose to see the world through this lens? Because everybody's seeing the world through a lens, and I kind of want to understand what your background is so I can understand why you're seeing the world through your lens.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly,
yeah,
at that point,
understand.
And that's one of those things where you may not get a valid answer because, like, I know there's like maybe 3 or 5 people where I would actually feel comfortable telling them why I see the world the way I do and why I view it through this particular lens and how that led me to filter the facts that I see so that I see the world the way that I do. That may not be something someone wants to discuss with you in a bar, but it is something that you can get amongst people that are your friends. And that's something that I think you can expect from people who are your friends, to eventually get to the point where they trust you enough to share that with you and then start to try and understand them from there. So that rather than attacking the symptom, you're attacking the actual, or you're dealing with the primary cause rather than just the symptom of something.
Mm-hmm. You know, it's really funny. NWA called me an Uncle Tom, and my response is Elliot and Barbie would strongly disagree with you.
To be clear, I don't know if it's the way I set my white balance or the way you set your camera, but I think I look darker than you.
Maybe NWA was saying that you are the Uncle Tom.
Oh, that would be.
I mean the hair in my beard is definitely whiter than you. So.
I remember the first time that you saw me in the gym, you thought that I was a Mexican day laborer that couldn't afford training.
God,
you said you just wanted to help me out.
Yo, I didn't even know if you spoke English.
Yeah, no, I get that all the time. He thought that I couldn't afford training, so he thought I'm just gonna be nice to this guy. I'm gonna give him a few tips so he doesn't fucking kill himself, because I was trying to do deadlifts again right after having torn my quadricep, and I was not doing anything properly because I had not done a leg exercise in about 8 or 10 months.
Yeah, like I swear, I was like, I did not think that you could speak English, but I couldn't have you rupturing a part of your spine because, you know, I'm still on the gym floor, even though I wasn't on duty at the time. And I was just like, I just can't have this guy fucking himself up. So
yeah, you would be the one that has to give me CPR, and you don't want to give me CPR. That's the way you.
Yeah, I don't like touching people, and I don't like to be touched by people. So I was just like, let me try to help this guy. And then when you spoke English, I was like, okay, good. And then you were like, how much does it cost to train with you? And the thing at the time, the gym that I worked at, you know, they charged $135 an hour for my sessions. And anytime somebody asks me that, I'm just kind of like, oh, here we go. Here we go. It's like, yep, it's $13.50 for 10 sessions. And you're like, okay, done. And I was like, wait, what? Okay. All right.
That gym also really ferociously forced people who were trainers there to be salespeople. There was this one guy, now the white guy with the little pop belly and the Air Jordans that would always have his fucking clipboard. And then he was bothering me before I injured my leg, and he would always have the
Jewish guy.
and he would have the clipboard that had the 12 or the 13 things you need to use to sell me. And I said, I remember saying something like, "So do they have a 14 step on there that actually gets me to sign up?" He looked at me, he looked at the clipboard, he laughed, and then he just walked away. It was I felt really bad because I didn't realize how much management at that gym actually pushed people. But he had
It's so bad. It's so bad at the gym. You want to hear a funny story, Lewis?
Go for it.
That guy that
I'm gonna have to segue into getting out of here because I'm about to drop.
Oh, so here's a funny story about that guy that approached you with the clipboard, right? The dude, with the slightly overweight guy that looked like he had a dad bod in the Air Jordans. He was a Jewish guy who he got propositioned by one of the older gay guys in the bathroom. Like, I swear to God, yo, that shit, when he told us this in the break room,
it sounds like New York Sports Club.
I laid my head on the break room table and just died laughing.
That sounds more like New York Sports Club than Crunch.
Like the dude came out of the sauna in nothing but a towel, right? Goes into the bathroom area, because you know how the bathroom area, you remember how the bathroom area looks.
Yeah.
The dude drops his towel and then puts his foot up on the counter with his fucking pierogi hanging out.
Oh, dude.
Like, and the dude was like, no, not fucking with that. Oh my God. That shit.
Bad for him. Even Mr. Clipboard doesn't deserve that.
Yeah, like he quit. He quit not long after that. He was gone not long after that. He was like, I don't know if he quit because of that, but that definitely didn't fucking help.
Yeah, I'm never going to forget. This ties into one of the things you told me that got me to get my posture a little bit more correct, which was I would always have I always have my chest sticking out, my ass sticking out, and then or as Yuli says, my coccyx bone or whatever is not, my hip is not in properly. And you would always say, why are you presenting your ass in a Chelsea gym? And like that stuck with me. Because I still have that problem, but I check it all the time. Like I'm like, okay, if I'm standing like this, I'm like, no, not doing that.
Yo. How many times have I told you?
Stop presenting your ass in a Chelsea gym.
And stop eating bananas on the gym floor at that one particular gym. Oh, how many times have I told you that?
I like bananas. They give me energy.
Hey, yo, pause. Okay, pause. Like,
let's end while I'm behind. So now, where can people find you?
People start wanting your behind. Oh shit! Yo, I just wanted to thank everybody in the chat, whether we agree or not. I want to thank you for saying what you feel. I don't want anybody to treat me like he's a friend of Lewis, so we have to treat him any certain way. If you don't agree with me and you got some strong words for me, I still appreciate you. As long as you speak to me with respect, I'm going to speak to you with respect. And I hope that you guys got that feeling that I actually do respect you guys, and I respect you because of you guys here today. You guys are not in the chat of some e girl trying to get you to buy 8 what is it, 350 milliliters of their bath water. You're here because you wanted to enjoy some kind of discourse, or you thought that there was going to be some kind of board repair. You guys are here to better yourself. So I'm always going to respect those who absorb content like what Lewis offers. There are not a lot of people that are going to sit here and then watch somebody solder a board. So I respect a lot of you guys for that. And I do like the fact that you guys have been mostly welcoming and mostly respectful, and I respect the shit out of all of you. Again, honesty and respect, they go hand in hand. I hope that I do get I hope that I do get a chance to talk to you guys about a lot more crazy things that are going on in society. And if we disagree, fuck it, We
Where
disagree.
can people find you? So I put a link in the YouTube chat, and I'll also put a link in the video description. Is that the best place to find you?
Yeah, so there are a couple of places you can find me. Some of the people that hold more right-wing views, you're probably not going to want to check me out on Black Power Magic Hour, which is on act.tv's Twitch channel. So if you wanted to see me kind of going head-to-head with somebody more liberal than myself, because I know that most of you see me as a liberal, well, I'm the guy that's seen as a right-wing asshole on that show. So you can find me on ACTDOT TV. That is act.tv's Twitch and Facebook. That is a show that is already on the air. You can catch me at Dr. Evil Genius, Dr_Evil_Genius on Twitch. You can find me at the link that he posted here in this chat. Also, I'm going to kind of announce to you guys that I've got a brand new show that I'm putting together called the Talking Shit Podcast. You're actually the first people publicly that I'm actually telling about this, because we're trying to work out some of the technical things and try to get Streamlabs to work and all this other stuff. The Talking Shit Podcast. It will not be a liberal safe space at all. We're going to be saying a lot of fucked up shit. We're going to be giving a lot of our own personal opinions. And, we welcome you to agree or disagree with us. I'm going to be putting that out. One of the first guests that we're going to have will be Louis Rossman. So stay tuned for that. I'm pretty sure he'll put it in Discord, or he'll put it, his first time being a guest on the show. It'll be me, Dr. Evil Genius, with Captain Paul. We're really excited to bring you some seriously entertaining content. Entertainment, sports, sex, relationships, politics, social commentary. Talking shit. The Talking Shit Podcast.
I'm confident that this will remain monetized by YouTube throughout the entirety of your journey.
Oh, we're just gonna put the podcast on YouTube. We're gonna be streaming live. One of our shows during the week is going to be live on Twitch. The other ones will be pre-recorded in traditional podcast form, and we're going to have the whole social media breakdown. I really do believe that you guys are going to enjoy that show. For people who want to live in the liberal space, that's what Black Power Magic Hour is about. That I do with Messiah Rose, but with me and Captain Paul, who he's
relation to Paul Daniels or Rossman Group Paul.
No, not either one. But he definitely is a conservative. I'm slightly left of center, I'd probably say. But he's like moderately right of center. Probably a little bit more firmly on the right. And he's going to say whatever the fuck he wants to say. So I think that you guys are going to really enjoy that show. Again, Louis Rossman is probably going to be our very first guest after our test episode. So Louis will let you know about that. He'll have the links for you. And I truly hope that you end up enjoying that show, because that show is going to be fucking fire. I guarantee it.
All right. I'll see you all later. Link in the chat. Thank you very much for watching. And as always, I hope you